Do you think branding and marketing, do you think some people are just better at it than others, or is that something that can be learned?
I had to figure it out from scratch. I mean, all of us start not knowing what we're doing.
I go onto your website and I look like I'm about to abandon it. What happens when I go to abandon your website?
Pop up, you capture an email.
What's the one thing you would want people to know about your industry to help them get it right?
Oh gosh, such a tough question. I feel like it really is that. I don't think people understand what branding is. Like, they really think it's a logo.
Vanessa Bucceri, so thankful to have you today on the Best of White Rock. We were really looking forward. This has been in the making for some time, right?
Yeah, a few months, I think.
Yeah, I think when we first connected, it's been quite a while since then. To the point where before this, I went through your website in detail because I was trying to recall all the wonderful things that you had shared with me. And now I think we've got them all. But the good news is you're sitting here and you can help share them with everybody. So I was really looking forward to you being on here for a few reasons. But I know that you are really doing phenomenal things in your space and also phenomenal things in not only the community of White Rock, but also a community that's kind of near and dear to my heart. So I'd love you to let everybody know who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thanks, Darren. Yes, I've been a brand and web designer since 2018. So about 8 years now this year. I definitely not a linear path to that career. So I transitioned from something completely different, workforce analyst, but we can get into that after. But yes, I'm a brand and web designer. I work with service professionals, and actually I've helped many local businesses within our community here, which is why I'm so excited to be here, and which is why I love the initiative that you have celebrating great businesses in our community.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, and that was one of the fun things about when we originally got connected is when we do research on the people before we kind of bring them on. And I'm looking on your website and I'm like, I know that business, I know that person. It was really neat. So you've been doing this since about 2018. That's right.
Correct.
So what was the path to get you into doing this really great brand and marketing? And you've kind of narrowed down your focus. I mean, actually, maybe why don't we chat about that? Because you kind of started off helping most people, and not that you certainly still can't, but you've kind of decided to focus in on real estate.
Real estate. Sorry, I know.
So are we just such lovely people that's what you kind of landed on that, or how did that even come to fruition?
Honestly, yes. So when I look back, when I quit my corporate job, it was a really big pivot. I took a huge risk, but I mean, I was really unhappy in my career. I had a son at home just starting kindergarten, and my whole life I had always wanted to do something creative. I had this great example of family members who ran businesses, and for me, I just didn't know what that thing would be. I didn't know what my passion was, and so I stayed in a job that was comfortable, which was great through getting married and starting a family. But then I really started to think, like, what is it that fulfills me and what do I want to do with the rest of my life, right? And so I literally stumbled upon this work, and it was like a light bulb moment. I'm like, yeah, that's it. Like, I searched for years to sort of figure out that thing. And when I came across branding and web design, I'm like, that's for me. So I studied, I took courses while working full time, raising my son, listened to podcasts, learned about business marketing. I did that for years, finally took the leap, left my corporate job. And those first few clients were all people through my network, local people that I knew through my son's sports, friends, some local salons. And that's sort of where it started. And then, you know how it works. People just refer you to other people in your network. And so a lot of my clients are local businesses here within our community. And so I'm so grateful that they gave me that opportunity. But speaking to real estate specifically, I did meet a few agents really early on in those first couple of years, and they were so well connected and just so supportive of what I was trying to do that they literally became these connectors.
Right.
And I think that's why I really love sort of supporting the work that you do, because yes, you're helping people sell homes, but you're also these amazing connectors, bringing people together, building community, like doing initiatives like this, hosting networking events that bring people together. So I love that my work uplifts that, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Well, you're right. Like, that's one thing our community, being the real estate community, is so well known for, is just your social connections, but also, yeah, like bringing people together and introducing people that you think can help other people. And it's a really neat kind of byproduct of something that you would think is so simple as helping people buy or sell real estate, right? What do you think it was that attracted you to marketing and branding in the first place?
Oh gosh, what is that? Well, I've always gravitated towards design. So, and even we can go back. I mean, my grandpa had a furniture business, so he manufactured furniture back in Montreal. My uncle was a drapery maker. He would do custom drapes for show homes. I had a passion for interior design. I would literally spend my weekends, looking through magazines and, dreaming of like my home one day. And I actually apprenticed with an interior designer and I worked in textiles for a few years, which was really exciting because I got to collaborate with interior designers, stage costume people, boat builders, and helping them with the textiles. And I loved that concept of working with color, working with, pattern, texture, and how that can really transform a space and really make it your own and something that someone would call home. I tried interior design, but it wasn't my thing. And so then I was kind of like stuck. Okay, like I have all these skills and I love all these things, but interior design isn't it. And so when I came across branding, I was like, okay, that's the same skill set. It's just digital. And in my past job, I was a workforce analyst, which was quite analytical. I worked with a lot of numbers, did a lot of reporting. And so it just kind of clicked because there is that coding piece, that strategy piece to the work that I do. It's not just about aesthetics. And so it was just this really great fit. It just like brought both sort of that left brain, right brain part, and it really married the two really well.
Do you think branding and marketing, do you think some people are just better at it than others, or is that something that can be learned? What's your thoughts?
I think it can definitely be learned. I mean, I'm proof. I had to figure it out from scratch. I mean, all of us start not knowing what we're doing. And I mean, I would say even the people that look like they know what they're doing, there's so many shifts that we're constantly having to pivot and figure things out. Anyone in business would know, living through COVID, and now it's sort of the global, everything going on politically right now and tariffs, like business is constantly about pivot and being okay to change and figure out, what's next. And so I think anyone can learn how to market themselves.
Well, I'm always so impressed with people that are just generally good at design, whatever that might be. There's different, obviously, facets of what that might look like. But those people are always, they look always so well put together and everything matches. And even just like going on your website, you talked about like color earlier. To me, like putting a color palette together is something that's so confusing and difficult to do. And I would think most people probably struggle with that. But for you, it looks like a second nature, like even going through your website, the way it's designed, and this is what you do. So it's like, it's just phenomenally put together. It's attractive, but there's also a key piece of that I noticed when I was going through it. And you and I got into a really good conversation about marketing, that's primary to what I do as well. And there's so many little subtle things that you have on the websites you've designed or your own website that I think a lot of people probably wouldn't catch. So great example. I go onto your website and I look like I'm about to abandon it. You've created something to do what? What happens when I go to abandon your website?
Pop up, you
Pop up.
capture an email. Yeah.
Now, there's a great saying in marketing, people hate pop-ups and they work, right? So that was one example of many on your website of a way that you can do what? Grow your business, right? Now, when you pass that on to the people that you serve, the people that you help, do they even know about some of these little things that you can do to kind of advance their...
No.
No? So you learned all that in school?
And just by doing and through just constantly professional development, podcasts, listening, going to conferences, and just constantly working to improve myself all the time.
Right. So when someone comes to you, because I would guess like their first instinct is pretty. I want a pretty website. Talk to me a little bit more outside of the pretty, because pretty website, I mean, you could design a pretty website, and that's important. It's got to look good, but the functionality is a really big piece of that. So in terms of like the marketing aspect, maybe to kind of start, what does that look like? Like, how do you take a normal website and turn it into this just like powerhouse of a lead generation machine for a business owner?
Yeah, I mean, we start with strategy. So talking about like, what are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? And normally, like people will say, well, I want like someone to contact me or book a consultation. But usually that's not the first step. Usually a customer will need 7 to 10 interactions with a business before they even feel comfortable reaching out. So it's a lot of sort of thinking about what your goals are with the site. What is that like one main action you want people to do? And usually a consult is too much. It has to be something else. And so that's why pop-ups and capturing email addresses are so important, especially because you can be putting out as much content on social media as you want. But things are changing so fast. I mean, even with search these days, traffic is really low. It's really hard to even show up in Google anymore because everything is AI generated. So we talk about, with the website, how can we capture those email addresses? And then how can you sort of stay top of mind and keep in touch with those people and maybe bring them back to your website? Maybe it's, you're sharing YouTube content every week to your list. Maybe you're writing blog posts and you're sharing your knowledge and your expertise and sort of proving yourself, because that's really what it's about, and keeping in touch. There's other things like creating sort of a sense of urgency, like why should that person take action? Really, like, I think what a lot of people get wrong about branding and web design and marketing is that it's really not about you. And I mean, I work with a lot of service professionals, and so a lot of times they want to like share a lot about themselves, but really it's about what do your clients need to hear from you? What do those people who have a problem, who need help, what are they looking for and what do they need to hear? So it's really sort of shifting the thinking about like, okay, what do we need to show them? And then how are we going to sort of start that relationship?
You touched on something super interesting there, and I want to unpack that a little bit. People are showing up to your website not to read about your history and where you went to school and how many families you've helped or whatever that might be. They're showing up because they have a problem that they need to solve. So what would your type of communication look like? Like how would you present that? So in this example, you focus primarily on real estate websites. What sort of problems are you trying to solve when you're helping somebody design their website?
In my role specifically, when it comes to web design, I think the majority of agent websites all look the same. They're maybe
100%.
they're like these templates that were designed maybe 10 years ago. And it's like, a few companies that have the same designs that they've been using for years. And I'll literally go to 10 different sites, and even the wording on some of the pages is exactly the same. Like how to sell your home, how to buy, it's exactly the same.
There's the big search bar, like search for homes instead of using these like powerhouse websites that put millions of dollars in on how to search, you're right. They all look the same.
Yeah,
They all,
it's the same.
it's the same layout, same templates,
Yeah.
off the shelf.
And they all focus on property search. When if I'm someone looking for a home, I'm going to go to a realtor.ca or some other search engine to look for a home. But if I genuinely like need help and want to work with a great agent, I'm going to go to their personal site and I'm going to want to learn what they're about and how they can help me and what's their approach and do they specialize in upsizing? I have a 13-year-old son. Like maybe we want a bigger space. Can they help me with that? Maybe I want to remodel or like buy like a fixer upper. Can they help with that? I think that's something that I saw. And another reason why I saw this huge gap in the market in real estate websites specifically.
Yeah, well, I like what you said too, because you're talking also about niching down in a way, right? And in marketing, you can try and broadcast a message to everybody, but the fact of the matter is, if you try to be everything to everybody, you're really effectively being nothing to everybody. So you talked about like upsizing as an example. That's a real problem and a pain point that somebody has. I've ran out of space in my current home and I want to get into something bigger. I need someone who specializes in this and knows how to get my family safely from point A to point B without having to rent for 2 months because we sold our home too early, or I get into the wrong neighborhood, the wrong school system, all that sort of stuff. The people you're serving, if their consumers don't understand how those pain points are solved, then who are they to them?
Yeah.
Right. So you've got that aspect of like that capture. I was really impressed with how you built that out, and actually, like what you're talking about, solving people's problems. That's very, very impressive because again, all those off the shelf, same boring, solve no problem type of websites, they don't accomplish anything. There's also kind of the getting discovered in the first place. So how do you help people with that? Is there certain tricks and tips and stuff that go into building a website that help get discovered on Google? Certainly still a big player, but I mean, even now with artificial intelligence, how do we end up on ChatGPT? I don't know.
Yeah, and that's sort of something that's really changing the landscape in this year that I've been trying to sort of stay on top of because, yeah, I mean, there's the traditional search engine optimization, or SEO as we call it for short. And there's a lot of things that go into that. It's, how you structure your website in the background, the keywords that you're using. even just optimizing for performance. Is your site fast? Do images load fast? So, then there's alt text and I'm getting into sort of technical jargon here. It's like, but that's ensuring, that there's accessibility, that anyone coming to your site can read it and understand it. If there's someone that needs can't read a website, you want to have those things. And SEO sort of looks at how well your site is built on a broad spectrum of things. And so, yes, every project, will ensure that all of that is met. And if the goal of the client is SEO, then we work with specialists, because that's the other thing. I'm a designer and I love the aesthetic part of it. I understand that the technical is important as well. So we bring that base sort of level to every project, and then we bring in experts, if we need to work with a copywriter, or if we need to work with photographer, videographer, I have that network of people that we bring into those projects or in those cases. When you talk about AI, it's really interesting because they're going to feature people in AI search that have authority. So when you talk about your website, that's your own space. You own that. You're saying, this is me. To get that authority, that's where sort of backlinks, public relations, other areas, it's going to look at those things. It's going to look at, for example, on Best of White Rock, are other websites linking to your site?
Right.
Are you posting on Reddit? Do you have extensive Google reviews? So the game definitely is changing. It's no longer just about your website being built for search engines. It's now also about branching out and sort of, it's that collaborative community piece. Are other companies trusting you and citing you as an authority in this topic?
That it kind of leads me into an interesting question for you. Is like, you obviously audit websites all the time when people come to you and are needing help. What's one of the number one things that you see people just completely get wrong about, and even maybe in their initial impression of, like, I come and say, hey, I want a website, this is what I want, and you're saying, whoa, slow down here, this is maybe what you should consider as we build this out? What's the number one thing you see people making a mistake on?
Number one, I mean, even just that prime real estate, like when you first open that site, like what's showing on that screen? Because a lot of people aren't going to scroll. So it has to be really compelling. It has to have like a call to action, as we say. So like something to give an email or to book a call or whatever that goal is of the site. It has to be right there. It has to say what you are, who you do, what makes you unique. If you're a local business, where are you located? Like it needs to be right there.
Right.
It can't be something that people search for. Your navigation has to be really clear, right? Like don't get fancy with your words. Like just call it an about page, call it a services, call it a contact. People like to get cute and try to be unique with their navigation. It's really important that it's clear and people can understand things, right? And then if you sort of check all those boxes, then they'll keep scrolling and looking for more. But you really need to make sure that you're utilizing that. We call it above the fold, which is like an old newspaper term.
Sure.
What you would see on that newspaper when you first got it.
What is it like? People come in, because I specializing in real estate, I know what most real estate sites look like. It's like someone, like the whole above the fold, like this, like, staring, and like you're so attractive that's why they're going to work with you or something, right? Like what is it about when people make those changes that causes them to really reflect on, like, wow, this was a really good change? Are they starting to see these additional leads come in, additional opportunities? What's your experience with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it needs to speak to your values. It needs to speak to sort of more what you're about on like that emotional level. We're talking about people reading this, right? And it's like from one person to the other, they really need to get to know you. And so I think it's less about being showy and salesy and more about just trying to build connection. If you're like a highly community focused agent, maybe we're featuring the community and you in it. Or, if you're about your team, like maybe that's what we're showing, like a picture of you interacting with your team. So it really is use case. It's based on each agent specifically and sort of what you value. And branding is really about what you want other people to say about you when you're not in the room.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Well, and so, like, a lot of people think branding is, I need a new logo, right? And I'll put my logo on my mail and all that sort of stuff, and boom, done branding. Can you help people understand what branding is more than just that?
Absolutely. I kind of like the analogy of an iceberg. So there's the part above the water, and that's what you can see. That's, your primary color, your logo. Maybe it's your headshot that you have on all your profiles. But underneath that, it's all the strategy. It's your values, what you believe in. It's sort of your mission. What are you trying to do? Who are you trying to help? What's that problem that you're trying to solve? And so when you work with a brand designer, we would really unpack a lot of that and we do a lot of strategy work. And then once we sort of really understand what that messaging is, that's when we can then really create a visual identity that visually speaks those things.
Right.
And then you work with maybe a copywriter and you work with the messaging. Like, what are the keywords and how are we going to communicate this with words, with visuals, with our photography, with our videography, and sort of all those other things, the outward things that people can see. But really, like, it's that foundation that's so fundamental. Just like a home, right? Like, you could have a blueprint, you've got that foundation. I mean, but the same home designed by 3 different designers is gonna look completely different. We all have our own unique personalities,
Yeah.
and I really believe that needs to come through. Now, so more than ever, when there's so much fake stuff out there in the world of AI, people just wanna connect with people and know what you're all about.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. And so when people hire you and like you just unpack branding like to a T, like there's so much more to it. If if you could grab someone who is interested in getting their branding done with you or their website done with you, or you could climb to the top of the tallest building in White Rock and shout it from the rooftops, what's the one thing you would want people to know about your industry to help them get it right?
Oh gosh, that's such a tough question. I feel like it really is that. I don't think people understand what branding is. Like, they really think it's a logo. And when it comes to websites, like, there's so many times that I hear, I just want a simple website.
A simple website.
Simple website.
What is a simple website?
I'm not too sure. I think they mean that they just want a simple project,
Okay.
or like maybe they're looking for something that's low in cost or just like done quickly. But in my mind, good design is not effortless. It looks effortless, but it's not. And chances are something that looks simple is actually very highly considered and thought out and strategic. And the reason it's simple is because that business has done all that hard work of figuring out, like, what are my values? What's my philosophy? What are my goals here? Like, what do I want people to do? Like, what problem am I solving uniquely that no one else can? Like, what's my unique value proposition here, right? They've done all that hard work. And so that makes the design easy. So I can create a simple website, but it's not a simple process.
Well, that's such an interesting comment because, like, you think of simple websites, you think of Google, right? Highly intentional about what that homepage looks like, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to serve a real estate professional. In our example of who needs a really great community website that's trying to showcase who they can help and how they can help them. You don't want maybe just a property bar that says search for properties in White Rock or whatever that might be, right?
That is literally saying, you're coming to me with a problem. Here, I'm just going to give you this and you do it yourself.
Right.
In my mind, like, I'm not coming to you to do that. I'll go elsewhere for that. I'm coming to you because I genuinely, like, need your help in X, like, whatever that is,
Yeah.
right? And so you need to show them how.
You really light up when you get to talk about marketing and branding, which is so fun to watch. What is your favorite piece of everything that you do? What gets you up in the morning?
I think seeing the power of it, like, when it's done well and when that launches, and how that just uplifts sort of the business owner behind it. It makes it easier for them to show up. Like, kind of like how, like, when you get dressed up for an interview like today, right? Like, you just feel better about yourself. Or like when you walk into a home that's just like clean, and like designed well, it uplifts that business. It makes it easier for them to show up, to, put themselves out on social media because they have those great graphics and it all just looks consistent. They know what to say because they understand their customer, and they know the messaging and what they need to be communicating through their work.
You're so right, 'cause you see businesses that have done it well and businesses that haven't done it well, and even just as a consumer, as an initial input of looking at something, you kinda subconsciously almost make a decision. You were talking about effortless. Design may look effortless, but it's certainly intentional and was made to look that way, which maybe wasn't necessarily effortless, right? But you, as a consumer, you can see that even in you're deciding on a place to take your family for dinner, and one place has a marquee sign that looks really well thought out and color patterns and palettes and the typography and all that, or the one next door that they designed on Canva and put up, and it just gives you a different impression, a different feeling of whether you want to investigate further or, reach out or engage or whatever that might be for the particular business. So there's so much more to it likely than, or not likely, like than what people really think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, when you talk about that consistency in the branding, like, does your business card match your website? Does that match your Instagram? Does that match your LinkedIn? Does that match your, in real estate, your yard signs, um, your letterhead? If it doesn't match, people are gonna be like, "Is that even the same person?" Right? And when we're marketing a professional service, it's really important that all of those pieces are consistent when we're talking about building trust. It's one thing to have, like, a great greasy spoon restaurant, and you know what, part of the charm of that is that it's not all perfect and curated, right? So
Totally.
there's a place for that. But I think when you're selling homes, for example, or even for me selling websites marketing, that consistency is so important. Because if you're showing up differently, or the message is different and the visuals are different, and there's not that quality that extends through all of your work, it actually does poorly, like, reflect on, I believe anyways, and that's why I see so much value in the work that I do.
Yeah, well, and it certainly is, and investigating all the stuff that I've been able to find that you've put out for people, not only is it like highly impressive, but even in just getting to have this conversation, you can tell that you're so passionate about what you do. And that passion clearly carries over into, the people that you've helped and the things that you've helped them produce and whatnot. So if I'm watching this and I'm saying, wow, Vanessa has got this down to a T, and she is somebody that I need to be in contact with. How do people find you?
My website,
Your website there? Well, perfect.
or my Instagram, I'm very active on there. I also have a LinkedIn profile. So yeah, social media or my website,
Okay, what's your website?
vanessabucceri.com.
And we will put that in the show notes to make sure that people can track you down and get some further help with their branding, their website, all that sort of stuff. And you've done such a great job for friends of ours in the industry. You've done such a great job for other businesses in the community, and I know you're a community leader in and of its own. So I want to thank you so much for being on the Best of White Rock. It was a pleasure to have you, and keep doing great things for everybody.
Thanks so much, Sharon. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.